Okay, folks, so we have another video here of disclosing how we go through mod reports, but today I'm joined by Chat4949. He recently applied to be a moderator, so he's going through the initial probationary period where we sort of show him the ropes and give him an idea of how to go through it. So he'll be watching me today, and I'll be um, letting him sort of weigh in on some of the decisions here. So thanks for joining today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've got the mod queue pulled up on my end. I usually prefer to start at the bottom of the list and then work my way up from there. So from the basically from the oldest of the reports to the newest. Do you have that up right now? And are you at the bottom?
At the bottom, what date should I be looking for?
So what I see at the bottom of the reports queue is a comment that was made 2 years ago that has apparently been reported. Are you saying that it's
Let me.
by Ioya or however you say his name?
If I go to the bottom of my page, it's from a comment from 5 months ago. I can go to the next page though.
Interesting. Are you on the and you're on the part that says reported, not mod queue, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me hit
Yeah,
reported.
yeah. Hit reported, and that one should tell you only stuff that's reported.
Oh, this is good. Yes, 2 years ago from
Yes,
a bunch of eyes.
yes. This occasionally happens. My guess when people report really old comments is somebody who doesn't like this person is going through their comment history and reporting a bunch of stuff they see wherever it is. So my guess is that user has made an enemy of some kind. Now, I actually happen to know this name. So if you do a Control F search in the discipline
Spreadsheet.
tracker, yeah, you'll see that he's been banned before, and kind of for stuff like debate lording. Actually, I thought he was permabanned, but actually,
Two strikes, so one more would be a permanent, huh?
I could have sworn he got an Order 66 ban. I thought he was one of the people we got with that. So he is actually somebody who got some strikes before. When was strike two? It was. I'm pulling up strike two right now. Um, yes, it was 9 months ago, and I actually did give him a strike for debate lording at the time. So that's kind of neither here nor there. It's just if you recognize a name, which I did, you can always it can make sort of understanding the report a bit easier. Um, when it's 2 years old like this, I'm not going to worry. So maybe he was debate lording. I mean, debate lording wasn't even a rule we had 2 years ago. So um, when it's something like 2 years ago, 1 year ago, like it's been a long time since it, I just approve it and move on. Like I don't even usually read it. Like at some point we have to, just cut it off and kind of treat it like it doesn't make sense to punish somebody for something that happened ages ago. So there's another one from 9 months ago. Um, and the comment says excellent research and summary. Unfortunately, knowing Reddit, this will be buried and voted down. So probably not much reason in doing that. Just go ahead and approve it and move forward. So I would say the next one that we can really do is this one from 10 days ago by Jonza123. So let's take a look at the actual page there, and just let me know what you think of it once you've had a chance to read the comment and what you think should be done about it.
Yeah, for a personal attack, I don't think it quite fits the bill. They were being a little rude, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say just from reading just that comment, I would not do anything for personal attack. I would have to read the other parent comments.
I mean, I think just looking at it, like no amount of additional data will change your closed mind. Dunning and Kruger would be proud. Maybe it's a personal attack, but I mean, I think it's not applying the principle of charity. They're not being
That
charitable
is
to,
true. Yeah.
yeah. So like, we don't even really need to overthink it. Like, there's a very obvious backup rule violation here. So I recognize the name Jones0123, so I'm going to look them up in the discipline tracker.
Yeah, I don't see anything in there unless I'm
Yeah.
putting their name in wrong.
So maybe they've been in the reports a lot, but never quite gotten a strike. Um, so this will be their first one then. So I'm going to strike one for not applying principle of charity. That's what I'm going to do here. All right, so I'm going to leave the comment reply. I'm going to distinguish it as mod. I'm going to approve the comment so that it is still visible. And just a reminder to folks, we do that so people can see why a strike was given. We usually only remove stuff if we're not giving a strike, but it's just kind of garbage and cluttering the subreddit.
So when you do that, there's a special box or something you hit so that it will your comment will show up with a little mod flare.
That's right. Yeah, so you will see it um right at your comment. There's a star like a four-pointed star shaped icon if you're using new Reddit that you can click. A box will pop up and you can choose to distinguish or undistinguish your comment as a mod, and that will make your name and badge appear green to show that you're a moderator. Um, and so I gave him the strike, and now I'm gonna take the URL from his comment um, and put it in the strike one column of the discipline tracker. Um, and that way later on, if we check what was his first strike, we can see what it was. So um, we're keeping record of what it was that he did, and then by keeping the comment approved, just and when we click approve, it's just to keep it visible so users can see what it was. Now, one thing I will note is that I'm guessing "Speak Truth, Please" um, was the one that reported him. It's possible somebody else saw it and reported it, but if it was "Speak Truth, Please," and if "Speak Truth, Please" happens to be watching this, please do not continue to reply to someone if you're reporting them. If you've given up on them, then give up on them and stop replying, because what is often the case is that um, it's just creating more opportunities for conflict and rule violations if you continue a comment chain with a person where clearly they've broken the rules and it's time to give up on them. It's just we don't need that. Just focus your attention on somebody who's worth a conversation. So it is common for me to remove a comment of someone who's replying to someone where a rule violation occurred and clearly the conversation fell apart. Now, this was 10 days ago. Doesn't really matter at this point. I'm mostly just doing it so people can see in the video. This is a common thing that I will do. And if you've ever seen long comment chains of things being removed after a strike is issued, I know some people have probably noticed this from time to time. That's usually why. It's not so much because all the comments themselves were rule violations or anything, but it's just like it's essentially a chain of non-conversations of people talking past each other at that point. And I see no reason to keep those visible. So let's move on to the next one. So we just did the one on Jonza. And so next one would be Captain Caring. So let's go. Whoop. I think I clicked that wrong. Let me pull that one
Yes,
up.
in which they are actually responding to an OP from Janza.
Ah, okay.
I'm reading the OP now to
My
try to get context here.
my browser is very slow in loading the page. Let me try it. Okay. Most Christians aren't interested in discussion about religion or following of the Bible. They're just interested in being right about whatever racism or prejudice they've picked. It's just an excuse to cover for what is otherwise just bigotry. Reported for do not willfully mischaracterize. What do you think we should do, chat?
Yeah, I want to read the I'm reading the OP right now. To sort of see what's so the OP from Jonesa is yeah, it's about what they perceive as a Christian hypocrisy. So I'm not sure that the comment here is falls under willfully mischaracterized because I think there's agreeing with the OP, but I don't know if this would maybe be considered bad faith trolling or bad faith content.
Yeah, so I mean, it does seem to me that both um, Jonza and Captain Caring are agreeing with each other and essentially saying that evangelical Christians are full of it. And then it sort of is an open question of who is Captain Caring mischaracterizing, right? I don't see that. And then, I mean, how do we know they're trolling or brigading our bad faith? Because that could just be a sincere opinion of theirs. Is it a
True.
great comment? No, but I mean, is it a rule violation? I don't see any of our rules as we've written them where it's violating. So I'm going to approve it and move on to the next one. Okay, so Speak Truth, please. Has a comment from 7 days ago. That's the next one in the queue. Um, in need of guidance regarding American politics. Okay, looks like this is in a chain. So what was said? This one. So this is a common thing actually. So you look here at the report reason, it says null. So that means they didn't specify a reason. I have found in most cases when the null is selected that there's not much going on. So this person wrote, "You're mistaken. Even left-wing media has been forced to admit that there was widespread fraud in the 2020 election. This isn't even a controversial claim anymore, despite establishment media denying it for so long." So, I mean, we can look at the context, but what's your initial impression of that comment?
My initial impression is that I mean I don't see anything particularly rule breaking here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I look here. I It's a very disagreeable opinion. Um, we could even contest the facts of it, but it's just I don't know what the rule violation here is either. I'm struggling to see it. Um, and I scroll through. I Yeah, I mean, I don't see what the issue is here. Again, not a great comment. Not a comment that opens a lot of doors or builds a lot of bridges. Obviously, we would prefer those, but it's not against the rules to have a suboptimal comment. So I'm going to approve it. And we'll move on to the next one. So if for folks watching, obviously a big point here is, um, um, sort of erring on the side of inaction if we don't see an obvious rule violation. So next one is by Perfect Voidler. Do you have that one up yet?
I do, yes.
Okay. So you are correct. More educated and generally more intelligent people will be able to adapt to new concepts sooner. I guess if you are slow, you would still be 20 years behind. So I actually have already seen this and I have downvoted it.
Yeah, we
Um,
talked about it
yeah.
a few days ago.
So yes, yeah, we were actually talking about it, and I said let's hold on to this. So, I had seen because you had posted a screenshot of it, and I was like, what are they even talking about it? And I did have a theory that it had to do with the gender topic, and then when I looked at the context, I saw that's what it was. And this is an unfortunate thing. Like I have seen almost this exact conversation where Perfect Voidler is making the point that he's making play out so many times. It's people talking past each other. It's borderline at worst. Like when people are talking past each other, there's a good chance they're breaking some rules. Um, this guy, I guess if you are slow, you would still be 20 years behind. I'm getting a sense of there's a generic idea behind the comment versus anything he's saying about Dappy Dream specifically. So, um, it's is it a great opinion? No. Is it one that opens doors and builds bridges? No. If he's hoping people will be more endeared to the way um, he wants them to use language on the concept of gender, he's certainly not helping um, expand the appeal of such use of language. But our job here is he willfully mischaracterizing. I'm not seeing it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw this, I thought maybe it could. I thought the if you are slow part could come off as like a backhand sort of personal attack But I guess because as I was more reading the whole thread, they're
Yeah.
probably it seems they're talking about sort of society as a whole.
Right. Yeah. That's what I
So it is
gathered as
very
well.
borderline for me, but just not across the border to strike territory.
Right. It's the kind of thing where like if we see Perfect Voidler do something a little bit more obviously rule violating, this kind of can inform like why he would do something like this. Like I certainly don't get the impression that he's trying to have good conversations with people, but he hasn't quite stepped over the line yet. I don't know who he's willfully mischaracterizing. Like you said, there could still be potential for a personal attack with that kind of phrasing, but in the context of this comment chain, it doesn't seem like he's doing that. So, just gonna approve it. As you can see, I already downvoted it. So I can still do that as a user, but I'm not gonna ban him just because I don't approve of the comment personally. And we'll move on to the next one. So it's by SqueeBLZ 88. Ooh, that's a good one. Let's take a look. I'm pulling it up right now. Um, so he said, that wasn't your question, fuckwit, and you're not worth my downvotes. Oh yeah, what are your thoughts? What do you think we should do?
I think it's a pretty obvious personal attack. I think I may have brought this up too because the real question I have is the response to this. They bring in the same insult, and also the fuckwit. So I don't know if they should also be striked or
Ooh,
if
ooh.
this is like it's okay if you punch somebody in retaliation for being punched.
All right,
I
so
didn't know where that sort of stood in this server
so
or
here,
sub.
yeah, so here's what I'm gonna do. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and give a strike to Squee here, or Squeebles, or whatever his name is. Strike one for personal attack because he wasn't in there yet. Um, okay. And this is a good example of why it's unwise to reply to someone after you've reported them. I'm getting that unicorn logic. Unicorn spelled like eunuch versus a unicorn. That's a funny name. This is why it's not wise to reply to someone that you've reported. I don't know that he did it because it doesn't show me who reported whom, but I'm guessing he did. And I mean, calling him a fuckwit is the same as him being called a fuckwit. So he's getting a strike as
Well,
well.
well, actually, now that I look at it, Squeebles was not responding to Unicorn. So the Unicorn
Oh,
guy is
yeah.
coming in out of nowhere to then insult. So it's not even a he punched back. He's just punching. I guess he's defending the level 100 Centris.
Yeah. And that's not defending someone. Defending them might be reporting them. But yeah,
Right.
just fanning the flames, no thank you. But even if it were level 100 centrist making that comment, it's still strike worthy. So I mean, there's no hitting back here. It's like, imagine like you're the police. Like, do you want people to fight back or do you want the general violence in the population to just stop, right?
Right.
Um, I know not everyone thinks the police are always acting in public interest, but if you can imagine the best example or good faith police officer, what's their logic going to be? They don't want people taking justice into their own hands. They want it in a controlled, consistent manner so that it doesn't actually escalate the situation. And so that's the idea here. So he's going to get a strike as well, and that's a good eye there because um, you will sometimes spot these things. They weren't reported, but they're right there. Occasionally you can miss them. I mean, I've definitely missed some as well, where the very next reply, um, especially if it's like one of those days where you just have a million reports and you're just going through them as quickly as you can, it's very easy to like miss the reply there. That doesn't mean that they can't be reported later and you act on it. Certainly, some users will feel like they're being singled out if you strike them, but not the person who insulted them back. So that's not a reason to get out of the strike. Some people in the mod mail think it is or whatever, or they'll think it's because we don't agree. And I don't even know what the conversation's about, right? All I see is that he called him a fuckwit. I don't know what Squeeble's side in this argument it is, and I'm not interested in reading that much. I saw the rule violation, and that was enough for me. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Squeebles, Jesper Star. This was reported for contribution standards. So let's get this pulled up. All right. So someone said, if you think racism is simple, there is nothing I can do for you. Bye. Um, okay. What do you think? It's a contribution standards
I
report.
guess
Yeah.
yeah, it's someone trying to disengage. I don't. Maybe if you wanted to disengage, you wouldn't need to write a comment.
Very true. Very, very astute. I agree with you entirely. So if it's not really adding into the conversation and they want to report it for contribution standards, yeah. And I don't usually give strikes for contribution standards violations. I just remove it and I remove anything that replies to it. So I'm going to remove the three comments there, Jesper Stars, and then the two that replied to him. Because, yeah, it's just, I mean, pretty much died there. So no one needs to be given a strike. And it's removing a very bad loose end that could take on a life of its own if people continue to reply to it. Let's see. So next we have PRA 1974 or PRA 1974 saying fuck off. Well, I think I can guess, but what do you think we should do?
Yeah, I think a strike. I'm trying to look them up on the sheet real.
Doesn't look like they've gotten one yet. So, whoop.
Which one would you go for?
I think it's more of a personal attack. It's like, an insult or an expletive. So, strike one for personal attack. Whoops. So, I'm going to go ahead and just give him the ban. And let me ask you this. How much in these are you noticing which side of the argument, like a left wing, right wing, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, whatever? How much are you actually picking up on this, just responding to the reports as they are?
Um, I guess I guess just from what I've seen, I have not. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but I don't know. I'm not seeing sort of any one way or another.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a lot of folks feel like it when they get a strike that it's because of what side they're on, but realistically, um, it's really not easy to tell. Like if you just see an insult, I don't need to read that deep, and I'm not gonna read that deep because like why do I need to put that much more time into it if it's clear like that the rule violation is there? So yeah, I mean a lot of folks I don't think appreciate just how easy it is to look like an asshole who needs to get banned. So let's see here. This is Let's Go Crazy. So now we should provide some more context here. This is actually a very unique report. Let's Go Crazy is the creator and moderator of the Confronting Chaos subreddit that I have listed in the sidebar here. Um, and so, I think well of it. The Confronting Chaos subreddit aspires to be what the original Jordan Peterson subreddit wanted to be, which was, deep dive and more good faith discussions on the core ideas of Jordan Peterson, particularly pre um, addiction and health problems Peterson when he was in what seemed like a better mental state at the time. And a lot of folks have commented that he seems to have changed for the worse since then. I'm not going to get
And
into
and
that.
they have a strike against them from half a year ago.
Yeah, and um, he was also crucially suspended for a while for about a month on Reddit, and not able to access his subreddit, and then the suspension was lifted. Let's take a look at the old strike then. What was that? He said it was about half a year ago, so who gave him the strike? I don't remember. I guess it was me. Okay, so this was an interesting one. So he says, if you don't realize that that was a clerical error, then you're just lying to yourself and others. Absolutely shameful bollocks. All right, so I'm just gonna say, if you're the creator of Good Guy Peterson's subreddit, or at least a subreddit that aspires to be like that, why are you talking to someone like that, right? Like, what was rule two of 12 rules for life? Always assume the person talking to might know something you don't. It's not something a lot of curiosity in the way he's engaging with this user. Now that's the old one, right? He already got a strike for that. It doesn't reflect well. So let's see what he said here. He says hiding behind the prison issue, it's obviously a complicated issue, while also hiding that you just don't think trans people are a real thing is disingenuous. So that's a quote. Let's see the Russell Earth was saying it, or Russell Arth. I don't know. Anyway, will you say what you really think? Hiding behind the prison issue, which is obviously a complicated issue, while also hinting that you don't think trans people are a real thing, is disingenuous. To put it in other terms, a woman who is worried about the prison subject while also believing trans people are just weirdo pedophilic liars could be reasonably called TERFs. Can you elaborate on what on your official position on all of it? So he says we can support trans people and want to advocate for women because that means we don't support trans people and are really evil bigots. Okay. It's such a disingenuous lie, and people are getting fed up with it. People are just getting fed up with any nuance at all, meaning we really just hate trans people. It's black and white thinking. You really need to address this mode of being because it's toxic. So can you elaborate on your official position on all of it? I believe that women's sports, prisons, and some other women-only spaces should have some protection from people who abuse the privileges that many trans women are demanding, because those privileges, such as self-ID, can and have led to women suffering. Do you agree with the above statement or no? If no, please amend it in a way you think would be reasonable. We could probably read up the comment chain more.
Yeah, that's
If
what
we
I've been doing.
so, I just want to know. I mean, the reported rule violation is for applying the principle of charity. What's your initial impression so far on Let's Go Crazy?
Just from that comment, I wouldn't, I wouldn't do anything. I think it's another borderline thing.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about nuance is not allowed. That's maybe not being charitable, but I'm reading up and seeing Russell Arth is someone who also has a strike against them.
Yeah, so we have two folks who are and I recognize the name Russell Arth. Like I've seen him come up before. Um, we have both two. This is a problem. Like it's extremely common for people who get strikes to gravitate toward each other and then just feed each other other strikes. It's just when they could just like learn to chill out for a moment. So this won't be uncommon that they will find each other and destroy each other, not in debate but in mutual bans, um, and so it's not unusual here. And then it might be worth examining like what is this Russell person, um, like hiding behind the prison issue, like implications of hiding that someone is hiding, right, rather than just being serious. That's also suspicious language, right? If it's not a rule
Right.
violation, it's borderline for him as well. Even if Let's Go Crazy is the reported person, these things are not great. Um, so I mean, there's definitely room for nuance is not allowed. It's such a disingenuous lie, and people are getting fed up with it. That he's talking about like a general narrative, like there's this general narrative that is a disingenuous lie, and people are getting fed up with it, right? When he says people are getting fed up with it, right, that sort of suggests it's more about what he's observing as a general trend versus anything about Russell. I agree. A lot of this is borderline. Um, at the very least, the question is, does it go into a rule violation? So, like, if you have to make a decision here, like, are you giving a strike against one or both of these guys?
So it's just these two comments because the Russell Arth wasn't even involved in just that one comment, so I guess they
Mm-hmm.
got in late. I would do nothing here
Okay.
as
Um,
of right now.
yeah, I would say maybe one of the saving graces for Russell's is can you elaborate on your official position? He is at least asking, so that gives an impression that he's not totally being uncharitable. He's at least trying to clarify better. Um, and Let's Go Crazy kind of ends to doing the same way. It's just there's some volatility in within one comment for each of these guys, so it's not great. Um, Definitely want to sort of keep our eyes peeled if we see them kind of erupting in the future. I will say that like you will see comments like this. It's borderline and you think, okay, it's not anything I need to crack down on now. And then a week later, you see their name come up, and they definitely broke the rules that time. So it's like, if either of them come up later, especially since we know they've had strikes before, it's just like, it's sort of a foreshadowing of what may come. I hope that they will dial it back a bit. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and approve. Let's Go Crazy's comment and move on to the next one.
And the next one is the same thread also from Let's Go Crazy.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
I guess you know what? We sort of doing this. I guess this is a much longer thread between Russell Arth and Let's Go Crazy.
yeah, looks like he replied. Russell replied to that one thread, and this seems to be a different like comment chain in that same post between the two of them. But maybe part of a an interconnected discussion between the two comment chains. Yeah. Okay, so I did scroll through. At the very bottom of this here, I see Russell call Let's Go Crazy a coward. He said, "You still won't answer my one question, coward." Now that might seem like a shrewd technicality, but I mean, you shouldn't be calling someone a coward. Do you see that near the bottom of the page that comes up on the second report? Let's Go Crazy got.
Yes, I do now.
All right, and here's the thing: like once you see an easiest rule violation, like you can go ahead and move on it. Whoa, what is happening here? It's giving me like a really small box. Okay. What? So I'm not gonna waste time. I'm just gonna go ahead and give Russell Earth or Russell Arth or what, however you say it, his next strike. Where is he? Okay. So he's in the 1200s. He didn't get his first strike that long ago. So strike two for personal attack. So I'm gonna apply that, extinguish his mod, and then go ahead and how many days is a strike two? Do you remember?
Strike two? No, I don't believe I've seen that.
Okay, so yeah. And here's the thing: we should probably change this soon. I think we will, but because we've often kept our strike policy open ended, like we've communicated it, but we have not put it in the sidebar. Um, our you might say our common law policy, since it's not on the sidebar, is strike one is a 7 day ban, strike two is 14, and strike three is permanent. Um, we have deviated from that on some occasions. Sometimes we make the strikes more, for maybe that individual, and sometimes people can get a fourth or fifth strike before we permanently ban them. If we don't permanently ban them on a third or fourth strike, it's usually going to be like a 30-day ban then, and it's a handful of occasions that we've done that for users where they've been around the community long enough and maybe we've seen some signs of improvement, but they still slipped up, that we're willing to give them some extra chances. Most people don't get to that point with us, so we just permanently ban them on the third strike. Um, so yeah, Russell, it's got strike two, but we still need to look at Let's Go Crazies. So let's look at the comment itself that was reported. I resent you trying to perform some kind of inquisition on me. To be honest, we can talk about the issue at hand if you like, but I'm not responding to these moral purity tests. Am I fine with drag in all forms? What a stupid fucking question. I went to a drag bingo and really loved it. I've known and liked people who dress in drag. I cannot answer the all forms part of it because I can't conceive of all the possible outcomes. Would I appreciate it if my cousin decided to wear drag for the first time at my father's funeral? No. So, no, I guess there are at least some situations where I don't think it is appropriate. What have you learned from this? Do you also agree that there may be situations where it is not appropriate? So, um, maybe the report hinges on the calling it an inquisition, and am I fine with drag in all forms? And then following that up with what a stupid fucking question. Now this is a common point of contention: is if you speak derisively of a comment or a question, the content itself, is that the same as a personal attack? And some people have gotten strikes for that, and some people haven't. And I really feel like it's one of those things where it relies on context and nuance and just looking at like what it is, right? Um, is he basically saying like, um, he's basically saying any such question where you ask it so absolutely, am I fine with dragging all forms? Um, it's just a bad question, right? Like it's just by design not going to give you a very thorough or informed answer. It's not intended to do so. So I don't think that's necessarily intended for Russell. Now, I will note that like sometimes there are derisive replies like what a stupid fucking OP, right? And it's sort of like I always try to imagine it like this, right? Let's say somebody makes art, right? There's insulting somebody's art to hurt their feelings, and then there's an art critic explaining what the weaknesses are of the art, right? The art critic isn't doing a personal attack. But if you insult the art because you want to make the person feel bad and hurt their confidence, that's a personal attack. And then I just try to imagine, is this an equivalent scenario for the person's OP or their comment or whatever's going on here? I think in this case it's more of the art critic type of thing. I agree he's not really doing it very diplomatically, but I think in this case, like especially if Russell's making it very clear, like what his own intentions are. Um, I'm not surprised Let's Go Crazy's doing this. Now, I think Let's Go Crazy's best response here would not just be to stop engaging with the dude. Like, he clearly doesn't enjoy the conversation. Why is he fucking talking to him? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I just explained a lot of my own thoughts. With me having said what I've said, and you probably having some more time to look through the comments in this chain, what do you think we should do about Let's Go Crazy, chat?
I it's I think borderline debate lord, but I think I would not. I think I would do nothing.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. I might just completely, especially since see that it fell off the rails with Russell. He eventually insulted him. That makes me wonder if Russell ever had good intentions. We could completely just purge this entire comment chain with Russell Arth. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm just going to remove all the comments to include Let's Go Crazies and the one that was reported. And so I'm just doing that right now. I'm just getting rid of them because this, we don't have like a super active front page anymore where front posts will get buried. So there's a good chance um, that this will be still seen, and it's just not. It's basically like if the conversation has fallen off the rails this much, it's just um, basically a contribution standards thing. So I'll just leave up the one with the coward remark that got him the strike, but basically I just went ahead and wiped out that whole comment chain. No point in keeping up something where people are talking past each other. I might DM Let's Go Crazy later just to let him know, hey, I know you're like. Here's another thing. I know he's probably a bit like animated after getting that month-long suspension from the Reddit admins that was overturned, um, because it wasn't fair. So like, we can't have people coming into the subreddit with chips on their shoulder and lashing out at other users over what they think is like a general feeling of persecution. Like we need them to follow our rules. So I've talked to Let's Go Crazy before. I'm going to try and message him before things continue to get worse because I see some potential in him to improve that the average user might not show. So I'm not going to do that in this video, but I'm just going to go ahead and just make it stated here. Um, but yeah, we have given him a strike before. He's coming close, and we need to be prepared for another one. So let's go ahead and look at the next reported one. This one looks like it's a few by Wizard Kelly. So we can go ahead and just see if what the deal is here. So let's see if there are a bunch of rule violations. So let's see. In the first one, well, I'd say the one starting from the bottom, Wizard Kelly 808 says you were literally just lying at this point. What are they lying about? See, coal company towns just before the Civil Wars had many similarities, wage slavery, and often conditions were made worse by one's heritage. Irish, for example. I don't see the obvious lie there. It's his own view of what happened historically. certainly doesn't seem very charitable to me. But I want to know what you thought, chat.
Yeah, I guess is it a personal attack to call someone a liar?
So I mean, sometimes
Um,
like these things are kind of one and the same. Like sometimes they're simultaneously a personal attack and violating the principle of charity. If I were to cite one rule, I would probably go the one that I think it more fundamentally represents. Sometimes you can cite two rule violations in one strike. I don't like do it. I don't do it like a longer ban if it's like two rule violations in one. I don't overcomplicate it like that. Let's look at his other comments. So, you are so underprepared for this conversation. You are solely trying to continue with generalizing and not pinpointing anything specifically related because you've done zero non-biased research. Your knee-jerk reaction is literally downplaying it, laughing face. Okay. Let's just. I don't even know if I need to pull up the other comments. I love how you keep changing the direction of this conversation. Um, Another one is bye, laughing faces. So, I mean, I would say just with all of these, like, we don't need to go and give a strike for all of these. It's not going to be strike 1, 2, 3, 4. I would just say we can respond to one, give a strike for it. I think that you're literally just lying. Um, is good enough for not applying the principle of charity. Let's see if Wizard Kelly's actually gotten strikes before, because I don't know if this is a strike 1 or 2 situation.
I didn't find them.
Okay, so this is gonna be strike 1. Now I'm gonna say, just given the way he responds, this is the kind of person who often explodes in mod mail. And so, um, like Sass is back. When people do that, when they're very obviously breaking the rules like this, and their response to Justice Sass back, I usually just permaban them at that point. I don't give them a 2 or a 3. Historically, when I didn't do that, they would almost always get 2 and 3. So when people basically show us in mod mail that they're going to get strikes 2 and 3 if given the chance, I go ahead and permaban them now. I no longer wait for it. So strike 1 for not applying principle of charity. Do you understand though the idea of just like essentially we're looking at all of these and just kind of rolling them all into one strike and just
Yeah,
yeah.
that is a question I had. Is if there's multiple violations in the same thread, is it multiple strikes? But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and then like here's another thing. If he were to come up in a different post and like maybe tomorrow we'll look at the queue and there's a comment he made yesterday before we banned him that also gets reported. Usually at that point I would just remove it. So like any comments we catch later, like I'm essentially just in my head gonna roll it all into strike 1, and we're gonna wait until he gets a second strike after the ban expires for strike 1. So it's not like it's like getting one ticket for 10 traffic violations if they all happen in close proximity to each other. It's not a perfect system by any means, but in terms of like what we can track on limited time, it's what we do. Because essentially the strike is like, this is your warning, right? You're getting. I need to go ahead and ban him. I almost forgot to do that. Don't want to forget. Sometimes, occasionally, I will give someone a strike and forget to ban them. But yeah, it's essentially like what we're really tracking is not even so much violations, you could say, but um, warnings, right? So like the first strike is a warning. People might think a ban isn't a warning, but it is, because the warning is you can get permanently banned if you keep it up. So we're just giving you a temporary one for now. Um, so that's basically what the system is intended to track. Um, okay, so we were with Wizard Kelly. So the last one, I'm gonna actually refresh my reports page. Oh man, it's not. Hold on, let me. I have to refresh my Reddit tab. New Reddit can be so buggy and difficult in trying to refresh things well. So it's better for mod tools in general. I used to use old Reddit for just regular commenting, but when I became a mod, I just had to be like, well, what works? And okay, so I'm just gonna remove that since it's garbage. I'm gonna remove that too. And okay, so C size that chicken. This is the last one. Um, all right, so this one, we don't really need to do anything. Do you know why?
No.
Okay, so this is a rare thing, but this is the post where I pinned it, and then I did my own pinned comment on the pinned post, sort of explaining to OP.
Oh, you locked it.
Yeah, I locked it, and I said this wasn't a great post. You could have messaged the mods to ask the purpose of the sub, and despite disapproving of what I described were these random assholes who have bad opinions, despite disapproving of them, you made a post for them to respond to, rather than maybe just discuss this issue of like what is the purpose of the sub with people who'd be more likely to mm, give you a serious answer, like the moderators. And consequently, I feel like it took off and created a lot of problems that are rule violations. And I have gone through some of these and replied to some of them and be like, this would be a strike for a rule violation. But I did note here that because of the way it played out, I'm just going to give a pardon to anyone who has a rule violation in this post. It's a very rare thing for me to do. In fact, I don't know if I've ever done anything like that. But because of that, I'm going to approve it. But since we are talking theory here, let's assume I hadn't done the pardon. What's the appropriate response to that comment by C-Size That Chicken?
Yeah, it's a weird one to me because they're not responding to the person they're quoting. They're responding to someone else. I would maybe just delete it. I suppose it could definitely be considered bad faith content.
Mm-hmm. Definitely be better to like understand like why is this the context. So, um, I told you you are wrong. You tell me I am on a moral high ground for saying you are wrong. What the fuck law about my saying I'm willing to do what I'm willing to do? I'm supposed to listen to you tell me what I'm willing to do. Yeah, I don't really know what Seaside's That Chicken is doing here. I am saying it does kind of lean toward being a personal attack because he's trying to essentially be like, oh, he posts here, and it's sort of like an attempt to undermine what he's saying in this comment by essentially saying like, well, if he's in these other communities, it's a tactic I've seen users do before, and it's something that people have gotten strikes for doing before. It's not quite as obvious that's what he's doing here, but it does seem like it. So there's potential for a strike here. I don't like you. I don't think there's quite enough, and I already gave a pardon anyway, so I'll just go ahead and approve it. And um, I believe. Can I just refresh? Usually refreshing does not help with new Reddit. Okay, it did in this case. All right, yeah. So that's the end of the queue there. Any questions or lingering thoughts before we wrap up, chat?
No, none right now.
Okay, well, thanks for joining today. So things continue to go well, just want folks to know we'll probably make chat 4949 a like full moderator by like around the end of the month. So just keep your eyes open for that. We'll probably make an announcement there and any other changes we might be making to the sub. I've been thinking over some things and we'll go ahead and get this uploaded. Yeah, so thanks for joining me again today.
Thank you for having me.